Hi everyone! So it's Sunday again, and that can only mean one thing. It's time to talk about the book I've been reading this week. And this week, it was the last of the series of Hunger Games books, and the last series of books I'm going to be reading in the challenge this year. So this week it's been Mockingjay, the final Hunger Games book by Suzanne Collins. Now, for this week, I've done something a little bit different this week because this is one book, but the adaptation has been in two films. And as you know, when I've got a copy of the a film adaptation or a TV adaptation or something, and I'm reading the book, I've read the whole of the book and then I've watched the adaptation and then I've recorded straight after. But because this one is being adapted into two films, I did Mockingjay Part 1 and 2. What I did was I read half of the book up to the point where the first film ends, then watched the first film, then read the second half of the book, and then watched the second film. So I had to, it was a bit of a funny week having a midweek break, as it were, to be able to watch the first of the Mockingjay films and then, carry on with the rest of it. It was a good thing to do, I think. Reflecting on it, it was really interesting. So if I have that situation again, I'll definitely be doing that again. Anyway, enough about that. So the book itself, Mockingjay, takes off pretty much right. Well, pretty much right after the second book ends. There's a little bit of time. We don't know exactly how much time, but it's not been much between the second and the third book. And now that the quarter quell has happened, they're out of the arena and everything is now going crazy. It's now the fight against Snow to free the people and take control of the various districts, free the innocent people, and then take Snow out. And that this is Katniss's dilemma in regards to, should she be the face of this battle or shouldn't she be? After a while of speaking with various people and such, she decides to do this on certain conditions. At the end of the previous book, some of her friends from the Quarter Quell and such have been captured, and that's one of the things that she has to do. She has to get them free as well, and her conditions of being the Mockingjay are, really, really interesting in this book. I love how, just as how I said in the previous video, that the second one is a lot more psychological, because you've got all these games going on with these new characters and what they really in for, why are they doing the things they're doing, why have they said what they've said. So you're constantly second guessing everything in the second one. In the third one, you kind of still have that, but it's on I would say a lower level, because you've got this new situation, this new quest, as it were, where the first two books, each of the quests you could say are the actual Hunger Games arenas and what's going on, whereas now those arenas are taken out, but you've got this new game that they have to play in order to get to Snow to get rid of him and end all the Hunger Games and bring peace across Panan. But there is psychological stuff going on that sometimes you don't even realise, and I'm going to talk about more of that in the spoiler section of this video. I didn't really do on the previous video because, as I said, it's a very psychological kind of an in between. You feel it's very in between, the continuing story, as it were. So I couldn't really think of a reason why to do a proper spoiler section last time, but I'm definitely going to be doing one this time, so I'll talk about that more later on. Now, one thing I do love about this book is the actual post-traumatic stress situations and such really come into light here, not just for Katniss, because obviously he describes all her various nightmares and all this lot, but for Peter as well. He's what he goes through and what he has been going through throughout the entire, from the moment he gets taken from the arena in the second book. He goes through absolute hell on earth. for Katniss and everything. And when because he's not, but because he's been taken, we don't really see him in the first half of the book. He is seen like on interviews on the various screens, that they pick up, and I think it's 3 occurrences, but that's it. And then when he turns up, it is this huge deal, huge deal, and it's what he does in that moment. It is the moment, as soon as it was announced that the Hunger Games Mockingjay was going to be made into 2 films, every single person who had read the book knew the precise moment in which they would break between the 2 films. It was so obvious, and it is the scene when Peter arrives, because of what happens in that moment. You expect it to go one way, and then you just have the rug ripped out from under your feet. It's an extraordinary moment when that happens. But what he then goes on, what happens with him is absolutely amazing. Again, I'm going to talk about that more. But another thing that another person, should I say, I love in this book for just understanding the harsh realities and such and things that they've gone through is Finnick. Finnick is one of the most extraordinary characters I've ever read in a book. He is. It is just wow whenever I read these passages, and he really stands out in a certain chapter of this book, in which there's this whole, going to find the victors, going to get Peter, extract him, get him out of where he's been held, and they decide to flood the broadcast and everything, jamming the system so they can pass through undetected and grab everybody at the capital. And in order to do that, they need to obviously broadcast something, and they decided to do these kind of memorial videos for the various victors who have died, and Finnick and also the victors talking, who are there with them, talk about their experiences and such. And Finnick, it's described the first time we come across him in this book, that it's like he can see right through you. He's not really there. You have to tell him something 3 or 4 times before it registers. He's become obsessed with tying knots on a string, unknotting, because his mind is just so overwhelmed with everything that's happened. And and then he stands there while he's still in this state. He stands there and he talks about what he's been through, and it's kind of that moment you go, oh my god, what the hell, how he's been forced to, when you become a victor, if somebody wants to buy your time, I'll put it that way, you have to do it, else Snow has one of your family killed in front of you. If somebody wants to buy you, you sell yourself to them. It's the way it is. He has had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people he has had to endure this, this thing with, from the capital. And it makes Katniss realise how sick and depraved Snow is, even though she's seen various things happen. It is that moment that is a real eye-opener for her, and it does. She needs something to distract her from knowing what's going on with Peter and everyone being extracted out. They'd left without her. She wanted to go with them, but they'd left without her, and they've got no kind of real communication able to get through to him. So she doesn't know what on earth is going on, and she needs something to distract her, and she just looks at Finnick and his story, and it just pours out of him. And she's just really taken aback by it. And I was too when I first read it, and it stuck with me. It really did. It's an extraordinary moment in the book. Other extraordinary moments, I have to say, stuff with Prim, a lot of stuff with Peter. But I do love little moments, like with Hamish, when Hamish, because of where they've gone to District 13, and they don't have alcohol there. So for an alcoholic, obviously that's a bit of a problem, and he has locked himself away. He doesn't want anyone near him to go near while he's basically going through cold turkey from alcohol. Yeah, as you can imagine, and if he's gone for quite some time and then he suddenly appears, and it's a really funny moment where Katniss is doing this promo for, being the face of the Mockingjay, and she's doing really, really badly, and he just comes in and just slowly claps, and he's like, and that's, my friend, how a revolution dies. And it's like, that was perfect line for the perfect moment for Hamish to come back into this world. Later on, when some really horrific stuff happens to Katniss, he is, visibly shaken by what's happened. He's really upset. I loved, he's always there as a support, even when they go back home and he can start drinking again. He's always going to turn up for dinner. He's always there to act as a support to Katniss, and Katniss is always there to act as a support to him. It's a really extraordinary relationship that those two have. It's really great. I love also Joanna in this book. She really is very interesting. How she has become quite addicted to morphine, going through obviously the various pains that she's been in and everything, all the torture that happened to her, and she's being weaned off it, and she's not very happy with that. But there's a very interesting moment in the book which is not in the film, and it's so frustrating, and I really wish they'd let it in to show a vulnerability, or at least show her torture, because Joanna's always been very loud-mouthed. She doesn't care what people think of her and everything, and she is that all the way through. She never shows any kind of weakness. She doesn't like to show herself upset. And then there's a moment where there's a whole situation with water. I won't go in depth because obviously you don't want to spoil it too much for you. And she has this this kind of attack. It triggers memories, water torture that she went through at the Capitol, and it stops her, and she it really shakes her up. And have that moment where this character who's so strong and so bold and so determined and all this lot suddenly show her vulnerable side. It's a wonderful moment, but at the same time, because of what it's showing her vulnerability about and everything with the torture, it's like, oh my God, Joanna, what you went through. It's a really sad moment. And there's so many other moments with other characters where you see the horror that they went through. The first two books, I have to say, I love them, but Mockingjay is on another level. It really takes you to the dark, really. You think you know the darkness of the Capitol because of what Snow has done to Katniss over the first two books, but it's nothing compared to what's going on in Mockingjay. And there's one particular moment that I just, when I read it the first time, I was in such shock. It really floored me. But I'm going to talk about that more in the spoiler section. So if you want to, hear about that, stick around for the spoilers. So overall, this book is one of the best book series, I have to say, ending books I've ever read. The Hunger Games, I think, is one of those things that The Hunger Games is very, very special and very unique. You have so many young adult fiction novels that are like a post-apocalyptic world and all this, but this is on a completely another level, because I think the political sophistication of it and the depth to it is unreal. I can understand why Suzanne Collins hasn't written anything else, because of the pressure to to make the same standard as this. That must be quite hard. And I can imagine, when J.K. Rowling wrote The Casual Vacancy, she was under so much pressure to meet the standard, and it got absolutely ripped apart by quite a few critics, but quite a few of them absolutely loved it, like I did. And then, you know, they loved her crime novels and they didn't know that she had written, you know, her first one until it was revealed months later. You know, and it was so well received, and her other crime books have been well received as well. So, you know, that initial pressure to do something that's just as good, I think, must be why Suzanne Collins hasn't written anything since. But if she does write anything, I will definitely read it, because she is a great writer. The pace of this, it's full of shock, it's full of sadness, it's happiness, it's got everything that you'd want, and I absolutely love it. I think it's phenomenal. Okay, I'm going to talk a bit more in depth now, and of course I'm going to talk about the films and the comparisons between the films and the book. So here's your spoiler warning. If you don't want to be spoiled, then turn off now. If you do turn off, thank you for watching, and if you've got any comments, you can leave me comments in the comment box below. Okay, so over to the films. Now, once again, they've done this beautifully. They have stuck to the original source. There have been some things that they tweaked, but nothing too huge. But overall, they did very well with it. There is one character, though, that they've made quite prominent in the two films, who isn't really in the book at all. And that's Effie. Now, it's really strange, right? Because it's been years since I last read these books, so rereading these has been absolutely brilliant for this challenge. And I was talking to my sister about Effie and such when the last film came out, and talking to her in that, and she hadn't read the books then. I'm not sure she's read them still yet, but anyway, she hadn't read them then, and she was asking me about Effie in the last book, and I was explaining to her about her, and how I wasn't that happy with the choices that they went in the film because of certain things that she said and didn't say in that. And then rereading it, I realised that entire conversation, I was actually thinking of the character Octavia, who is one of Katniss's stylists, who is in the book pretty much the whole thing, and then Effie turns up right at the end, because Effie's been captured. She's in the capital. She's not referred to in the book until she turns up when it's the day that Snow's going to be executed. So I realised reading it this week, I'm like, oh my god, I've been telling my sister all this stuff about Effie and what she's like and what she does in this book, and I'm talking about the completely wrong character. Yeah, it's very strange then that they decided in the film that Effie was going to be in all the way in both films. So they took basically Octavia's words and how she feels and that, and gave them to Effie. So yeah, interesting, because Octavia, you know, as you see, like the stylist and such in the various films and such, talking with Katniss now and then, but you don't get to know them. But you do in the book. So I can understand why they cut out Octavia and that and gave it to Effie, but still, it's a bit like, oh, that's an interesting thing for you to choose to do. Their attention to detail, just as I said, for Catching Fire, is absolutely fantastic. They create these films perfectly for the fandom. The fandom is so happy with these films. And the cast is absolutely phenomenal. But I have to really say, the standout for me in these films, the Mockingjay films, is Josh, who plays Peter. Peter goes through, as I said, some real hell in this book, and so to play that on screen, seeing him, you know, going from, you know, pretty healthy looking guy to as skinny as a rake, he's been, you know, tortured and starved, then being like this killing machine out to kill Katniss, then going, you know, having these guns are going off and he's sat there unable to stand, he's crying, he's whacking his head against the wall because he can't do it, he's just completely locked in. Suddenly it triggers, he has these triggers where he's perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden he's wanting to kill Katniss, and then he's triggered back again to reality. God, that is such Peter in this last book. is so complex, and Josh played him absolutely beautifully. So I have to say, if I had to give an award to anybody in the film for the actors portraying their characters, I would give it to him, because in Mockingjay Part 1 and 2 he's absolutely fantastic. It's very interesting in this book as well. What happened in the previous book with Cinna. Cinna, in the previous book, he was dragged away. He was beaten up in front of Katniss, and she was unable to help him right as she was entering the Courtquell, and dragged away by peacekeepers. She learns that he's dead in this film, and yet he has designed her all these clothes, just absolutely stunning. And the way they've been brought to life in the film is just extraordinary and exquisite. You really feel his presence, even though he's not there, throughout the course of the film. The costume is absolutely amazing. Now, I want to talk about the really prominent moment that stuck with me from the first time I ever read the book till now, and it really is still, even when I watch the film, when I reread this week, it really got to me, and it's Prim's death. Now, Prim is Katniss's sister. She is very, very, very important to Katniss. She's her world. And Prim has become she's trained to be a doctor. She's having a really, loving the becoming a doctor, training with medicine, because it's something that as time has gone on, has become really important to her. And Katniss at the situation, she's gone to the capital, and all of the children, all the citizens have been told to go to Snow's house, and basically they'll get medicine and food and protection and all this stuff. And the children get taken from the adults, and they're saying, bring your children up to the front, up to this area, this sort of caged area, and they'll get let in. So they're all these people have been separated from their children, and it's just horrific just watching them being separated. And it very much has images of thoughts linked to that of Holocaust and everything. And then a jet flies over, and these little parachutes start coming down, which are in the Hunger Games they hold gifts. So for the contestants from their sponsors, so they think, oh, we're going to get food, we're going to get medicine. They're reaching up and everything to grab the parachutes, and then bang, they explode, and it's just like, whoa! It's a really shocker of a moment. And the way that she describes Katniss waking up and being surrounded by body parts of children and people screaming and everything, and then the medics that are on Katniss's side, that rush in to help, and that's when she sees Primrose, her sister. One of them, she hasn't seen her for ages, and they said to each other, the next time we see each other, we'll be free of snow. And Katniss screams her name, and Prim looks up, and they lock eyes on each other, and right at that moment she's about to say her name, that she's, oh, my sister, boom, there's a delayed explosion, and Prim is killed instantly. And it's just horrific. It's so hard to read, it's so hard to watch. I think it's a thing of knowing that it's coming as well, makes it even harder. To read and to watch, but it's that weird moment where you understand why the author did what they did, because there had to be an innocent loss, even though all the people who die throughout the course of these books are innocent. As Peter says to Katniss in the course of this book, that they made their choice to do this. They're soldiers. They signed up for this quest. Death was in it as part of the catch of it. So they signed up to it. So we've just got to respect their decisions and everything. Whereas Prim didn't sign up for that. She signed up to be a doctor. She didn't know that she would be a doctor who would get blown up. and that is really tragic. But I love also in this book going forward how in the epilogue, many years later, Katniss has become a mother of 2 children. Her and Peter are happy together. There's no Hunger Games. Everything is fine. But she still has nightmares. So does he. He still has episodes where he has to, suddenly he'll hear a sound or something and it'll mean that he has to, grip the back of a chair or something for quite some time to get himself, have this sort of panicked, glazed over, can't recognise, can't connect with anyone state for a while, just for a bit, and then he'll come back and stuff like this. It never goes away, post-traumatic stress, and they will never be free of that, but they are happy. And as she says, about making lists and everything, and ahead of the good things and that. And she says it's quite tedious, and you could say it's a silly game, but there are worse games to play. And that's just brilliant how it brings the full circle of everything. So yes, I can't think of anything else to say right now, so I'll stop there. But I strongly recommend the films, just as I strongly recommend the books. Mockingjay is my favourite one out of the 3. It's absolutely extraordinary. Go through hell and back, but it's worth the ride, I think. All right then, I'm going to stop there then. And I really hope you enjoyed this review of Mockingjay. If you've read the book and want to leave me a comment, you can leave a comment in the comment spots below. Or if you want to show what you think of this book another way, you can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, entirely up to you. I'd love to know what you think, and I will be back soon, and I'll see you what next book I'll be reading next week. All right then, bye.